Are present. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need on item number 19, executive session in accordance with 1 MHSA, section 405(6)E, to discuss legal matters. We cannot go into executive session because our city attorney is not present, so I entertain a motion to remove that from the agenda.
So moved.
Is this a table to next meeting?
It will be added, it won't be tabled, this is just be remove it today and then
Add it to January.
add it.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion.
I just have a question. I don't want to vote on it if this is concerning legal matters that I have initiated. So I need to know what the legal matter is to discuss.
Yeah, so if you want to abstain from the vote, now I just need to, if you abstain, we still need everyone to authorize to remove it.
Supermajority.
You need all six, remaining six.
Remaining six.
Vote in favor.
I don't know what the subject is, so that's why I'm asking the
It is,
question.
It is.
Yes.
Right. Initiated by me?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, then I need to abstain from that. Okay. I'm sorry, but I just.
No, that's fine.
I want to be on the right side of that.
So all those in favor of removing this from the item, from the agenda? Unanimous. It is removed. Item 3, rules of order. We follow Robert's Rules of Order and all other rules that the council adopts at the organizational meeting or determined at other times. Item 4, adoption of minutes from the following meetings of the Ellsworth City Council, November 21st, 2022, regular council meeting, and December 7th, 2022, special council meeting.
Move to approve both.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 5, city manager's report. Manager Mosier.
Good evening, councilors. I apologize in advance. My report is rather lengthy tonight, but I've got some information to cover. So to start out with the upcoming holidays, just want to alert the public that City Hall will be closed at noon this coming Friday for the employee annual holiday party. City Hall will be closed on Monday, December 26th, in observation of the Christmas holiday. City Hall will be closed on Monday, January 2nd, in observation of the New Year's holiday. The transfer station will be closed on Saturday, December 24th, in observation of Christmas, and Tuesday, January 3rd, in observation of the New Year. All emergency services will not be affected by the closures, and curbside trash pickup will also not be affected by the closures. I'll save that to the end. Consolidated Communications, excited to announce that we met with those folks the other day, and they have a plan to, which will be starting in the coming days, to change over. Well, the copper's going to stay, but they're going to expand their Wi-Fi throughout virtually the entire city to a fiber optic offerings throughout the city. Most of the citizens, if you haven't already, you're going to be receiving lots of information in the mail about the new programs that they're going to offer, the speeds at which the Wi-Fi will be available to the folks throughout the city, and it's really a fantastic opportunity. They currently have copper options throughout a large portion of the city. So this fiber optic option is going to really expand the capacity for folks in their homes to be able to have high-speed internet. So excited about that opportunity for our citizens, and stay tuned. And the main reason I wanted to make the announcement is really as a kind of a public service announcement, because their vehicles will be on the road. They will be working in the lines up above. So just be mindful, be cautious, be careful, and please be patient when you see those vehicles, as they were likely to cause some traffic interruptions while they do that work. Our next council meeting will be January 9th. This is 1 week early due to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday the following week. So put those on your calendar since it's not that far away. And the Highway Department wanted me to make sure to mention that the sand pile located at the Highway Garage at 525 Main Street is stocked up and available for residents if they should need to use it. Just real quick, I wanted to just give a thank you to all of the folks who came out and who donated last Thursday night. The Ellsworth Police Department was at the Walmart here in Ellsworth and collecting toys for children in need in our community and others. And we had a very successful evening. We filled a total of 6 police cruisers, filled from the front to the back with toys and clothes and all sorts of items donated for needy children. In addition, we took in over $1,600 in cash donations, which we then turned around and went in and spent that money for additional donations to all of which went to the community closet to be distributed to needy children in Ellsworth and Hancock County alike. It was a great event, and it was fantastic to see all of the generosity by everyone who was involved and made donations. And lastly, but certainly not least, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce the new librarian, Sarah. If you would just come on up so folks can see who you are.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So Sarah Lesko comes to us from Arkansas. She worked in public libraries for over 10 years. She received a master's degree in library and information science from San Jose State University in California. Her first official library job was a library reference staff position at the Mill Valley Public Library in Mill Valley, California, where she stayed for over 5 years before returning to Arkansas to start a family. She worked as the youth service manager for the Saline, I say that right? Saline County Public Library System in Saline County, Arkansas for 5 years. She and her husband and children now live in Franklin and hope to build a life here where they already falling in love with the community. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank
and
you.
Sarah. Welcome.
We're happy to have you. And that concludes my report for this evening, sir.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All right, committee reports. Did any counselors attend any committee meetings?
I did 2. I attended the Harbor Commission meeting last week, and they were discussing several issues, including their fiscal 2024 budget and expenditure priorities. And their biggest priority this year is going to be ensuring that the cribs, which is the large structures on either end of the dock, are repaired as they are compromised. It's been a project that has been on the books for a decade or better, but it's at the point now that it definitely has to be repaired, because if not, the front dock and the gas pumps could also be at risk if we don't do that. So that will be coming up in the budget season. And then I also attended the Ellsworth Business Development Corporation meeting last week. They have several projects that they're working on with and for the city, but 2 notable ones is, the first is they have a new website that they'll be hopefully within the next month or 2 launching, and it's a website that it promotes the city of Ellsworth, obviously, but also the businesses and living here. And it's an attempt to have people from within the state of Maine and outside of the state of Maine to come and learn about Ellsworth and the surrounding area and why it's a great place to live and work. So hopefully that'll be launching in a couple of months. We'll make an announcement. And the other project is a business development plan that had brought to the city, the idea several months ago. An RFP went out. Unfortunately, there were no responses to the RFP, so a couple of us talked with the consultants to find out what kind of scared them away. So we've made some tweaks, some changes, and that RFP's gone back out, and hopefully will come to the council in the next couple of months.
Other reports? So we are looking for a couple of counselors to participate on the broadband committee. This committee we did not assign, so just looking to see if anybody has an interest.
Can you describe what the goal is?
The goal is sort of related
Yeah.
to what you just described.
Yeah, so the broadband committee we formed internally, probably a year and a half ago, and we began exploring opportunities. There was a survey that was put together by that committee that was put out to try to determine where the needs were in the city, who was served, underserved, for broadband expansion, obviously. And that work continues, obviously somewhat impacted by this news from Consolidated, but there's still a lot of work to be done. There are still areas of our community that aren't served, and taking a closer look at what the future holds for Ellsworth in expansion of broadband. There's also equity issues of ensuring that not only is it available, but that it's affordable. And so those are the type of things that the committee will continue to work toward putting together a plan for how the city can perhaps work with some of these entities or go out on our own and have our own municipal-based broadband. So that's the work that the committee will continue to do, has begun to do, and will continue to work on to bring something forward.
Is this a meeting, do you think we could, I'm assuming that the meetings will be during the day or in the evenings, or?
They are frequently during, the previous meetings have all been during normal business hours. A couple of the folks do Zoom into the meetings. So that's obviously, an option for someone if they can, get away for a period of time during the daytime to attend the meeting via Zoom. So that's an option, but yeah, they have been. It's internal sources, internal employees, but then there's also several members of the community and businesses major businesses, some banks, the hospital, Jackson Lab, that all have contributing members on that committee as well.
So if I can zoom in, I don't mind, I will do it if no one else wants to.
So Counselor Beal and I've also put myself down, so.
Excellent.
And Joseph.
I did attend a webinar that I could share, but I'm not sure if that fits into the committee.
Yeah, let me jump to
Yep,
Madam Clerk and then
still
we'll.
on this.
Sorry. I have a request from the Mount Desert and Ellsworth Housing Authority, which usually falls under your committee reports. They've had a vacancy. Kristen Cartier vacated her seat, which was to expire September 1st, 2024. And the Housing Authority has found Carol Manson, who is willing to take that term through September 1st of 2024. And they were aware that when they reached out to me, it was beyond your agenda timeline, but if this isn't something that you guys feel comfortable appointing tonight, Carol would be unable to be a voting member until their February meeting.
Move to approve, what was the person's name?
Carol Manson.
Carol Manson.
Is there a second?
Does that have to be on the agenda
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Add it
for a
to the-
motion?
Yeah, for a
Yeah.
motion, shouldn't it be added to the agenda?
Is it for committee assignments? Is this a different type of committee?
We did it under committee. I think you did it under committee last year. I mean, you could add it as like a bullet, like under where the broadband is.
I think we'd need to add an agenda item that covers that.
Because it's
So-
it's not a council committee.
Can we do that by unanimous?
When was the January meeting for that?
We have to post it.
Since our meeting is early. Did they realize our meeting was January 9?
January 9th, I can't remember when their meetings are, that may allow her to
She was appointed.
vote in their January meeting.
Okay, so can we add it to the January 9th?
Yep.
Could we also ask for some information on this person before we nominate them or approve them?
All right.
Can do, thank you.
Counselor Stein?
I attended a few weeks ago, Maine Municipal Association's online webinar, Navigating the Marijuana Landscape. Bobby and Lori from Code Enforcement were also there. It was very interesting. They outlined all the differences in different facilities, like primary caregiver operations and regulations associated with those dispensaries and retail adult cannabis sales versus medical cannabis sales. And there's a good amount of data now in the state showing what kind of tax raising they can give for the communities. I heard from Lori that we've opted out in previous years to allowing adult use. But the OCP, the Office of Cannabis Policy, is very robust and informed and well-staffed, and are happy to come give presentations to municipalities if there is some interest.
Just a clarification, the city hasn't opted out. In order to join the program, you opt in or you just don't move
But the
forward.
default
So
is-
there was no vote to opt out of it, it's just,
The default is opting out, and the default was prohibition essentially in the municipality.
Well,
Unless,
it's either you opt in for it, the default is that you're not in. If you choose to go in, you opt in. And at this point, we've had presentations. I just wanted to clarify that at this point, no one has brought that forward for that.
Does it hurt to listen to a presentation?
Didn't suggest that.
I'm
we
asking.
did. We've had the presentation, so.
We did, but there's new
So
councilors.
I'm just wondering
there
if,
was
like
interest
other
in-
presentations, if it's recorded, if we could find it and
Our-
councils could review it.
Well,
I
it'd probably
can-
be different. I mean, presumably they know more now about cities who've opted in. I would think we would want an updated, if we're gonna have a presentation, I would want an updated presentation, I would think.
I'd like to hear about it.
I can look into scheduling one, and then we can see what the MMA's availability is to put one on, and then I can reach out to you for potential dates. Not a problem.
If I may, John, you feel it would be helpful for everyone to see this?
I think it was very informative. I didn't have the experience of having the presentation in the past, so I don't know how different this new one would be, but we could probably figure that out. But it was eye-opening, and it seemed like it had been a boon to a number of different municipalities in the state. And just putting the information out there could, interest some outside companies or investors or locals in some businesses that could be helpful for the municipality.
Wait, so, excuse me, the boon would, from what?
Tax, in terms of tax collection and just tourism as well, it seemed. I left my notes at home.
Okay, no,
unfortunately.
that's just curious.
Lori, did you want to add anything to that?
From how I have always understood it,
It's the role.
how I've always understood it, it's a state that benefits from it. I
Tax.
don't know that it's the locality, the city that benefits at all from it. But, it's always out there. They're always, wanting to do presentations to update you on the current regulations, et cetera. We have, like I said, we've not ever opted in, but we do have, if you want to sell, be a caregiver, you can only do this out of your home. You can't do it in a retail format. And you have to follow along with the state's guidelines and also our home occupation guidelines. So we have that, and we have one dispensary.
One dispensary, right. So I think perhaps what Counselor Stein was referring to with generation of revenue is that, if you bring in particularly not so much your retail locations, although they are, a potential business that would pay property tax and so forth. So the state, the town, city would gain revenue from those sources. The grow locations and the testing sites and those things tend to be even larger facilities. So, consuming even larger parcels of land, which would, again, be tax revenue based on those property taxes. So that's where the city could potentially have a revenue source. In addition, we can set our own licensing fees and so forth for the businesses, which again is a potential revenue source. But as far as the sales tax for the actual product, that the town doesn't see any of that. That goes all to the state.
There's a wide range of licensing that the town has control over. So they gave some examples of, down in Portland, there are these $50,000 to $100,000 annual licensing fees that these businesses have to pay the town. Other towns only charge $1,000 or something like that, but there's a lot of potential there.
Any other committees? All right. Item 7, citizens' comments. Any citizen that wants to get up and make a comment on any topic can do so. Just introduce yourself, and you'll have approximately 3 minutes to speak.
I can maximize my 3 minutes, but I'll really only do 2, I promise. So if you can pass these around to everybody, I would greatly appreciate it.
Yes, I will.
Sorry, I appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Cara Romano. I'm the Executive Director of Heart of Ellsworth. I am here this evening to release to the council our asset mapping study that we have concluded this year. Back in March of 2022, we set out to create a tool to highlight the downtown assets. The purpose was to show our community's strengths and resources and allowing the community to strategically assess how to build on these assets and to address future needs of our community. We intentionally worked on this last year to sort of get a really good understanding of where our downtown was specifically ahead of the comprehensive plan that is to take place in 2023. We worked with Hub, which is a consulting group out in Portland, Oregon. The woman who headed up our project is actually an Ellsworth High School graduate, and we received contribution from them. They have a sort of a pot of money each year where they do community projects at a discounted rate to different communities around the country. This was something that they started because of COVID, and because this person has a connection to Ellsworth, we proposed this project, got a price from them, and then once we received grant dollars and support, we were able to secure the project at the beginning of this past year. So we worked with Hub and the City of Ellsworth's Economic Development Director, Jana Richards, to produce this report. The full report that is in front of the council, each one is for you folks to take with you and to consider as we lead up to comprehensive plan and anything else that projects that are happening in and around the downtown. The full report will be made available to the community in January. There'll be a spot on our website where folks can go in and download a PDF. We're also going to gift a copy to the Ellsworth Public Library and to the Ellsworth High School Library. Both groups were part of the work that we did. The funding source for this project, as you can see from the cover, Franklin Savings Bank supported, Maine Community Foundation supported, and then the City of Ellsworth and Heart of Ellsworth both gave in-kind time to the project. The funding source
as I stated, also had a lot of community engagement, so there was a lot of in-kind from the community itself. The project duration was 10 months, and the project budget was $24,000 cash, with, right now, I have yet to sort of determine the dollar amount of the in-kind. In April, our consultants came to Ellsworth and they conducted a 3-day-long breakout sessions that were hosted at places such as the Grand, Ellsworth High School, the Moore Community Center, and we hosted, at the Moore Community Center, we had some meetings with the seniors at the Friends in Action. And then other community members and area leaders helped us gather information about how they see the town. Am I already at 3 minutes?
You said 2. You said you could do it.
Was it really 2?
Oh, that was 3.
It's really free.
3.
Already? You guys are messing with me. Okay, well, all right, so basically, this report will help our community to gain greater understanding of the assets that make up our downtown, define the downtown's competitive position in the region, identify opportunities to enhance offerings through business retention and development, community growth and expansion, and enhanced quality of life. Some of the strategies and recommendations are sort of more to the end. The beginning of the report itself is sort of more of the information of where we are as a community, and the end has a lot of sort of big ideas that are broken out into smaller ideas of how we get to the big ideas. And to conclude, it's our hope that this document will be considered as the city enters into that 2023 comprehensive planning process, and that this would be a nice representation of the downtown offerings and the future of where the community would like to see the downtown go. Thank you.
So you couldn't do it in 2 minutes? Not even close.
Did I make the meeting?
No. No, that was 2. That was 2. Any other comments? Seeing none. Item 8, presentation of awards. There are no presentations this evening. Item 9, unfinished business. Continued discussions from the November 21st, 2022 regular meeting regarding communications regarding additional public notices, surveys, and possible establishment of a subcommittee. So it's open for,
Were you going to tell us, I can't remember, what we're already paying the Ellsworth American for communications and like what that includes or entails?
Annually, it's pushing 15,000.
And that's for,
Just council-related notices, which is the full agenda in the tiny.
yeah.
And you looked into,
So if I wanted to put this in there, just as it is now, this size, it's about $1,700
Per year.
No,
per
per
meeting,
time.
per
Per,
agenda.
every
Per
time.
agenda.
If you wanted to put that thing,
A 2-page agenda, just like this, as like a half page, is $1,700
Per month,
per month, or per meeting, if
Per
there's more
meeting.
than one.
but that's in a,
as opposed to you're saying what's in there now is a teeny, is this, but
It's
it's in
just super
tiny
small.
format. Yeah.
so it's 2 of these.
Right.
Is that what it would look like?
Yeah.
Is there a compromise that could be? Are we free to talk? I'm sorry.
Just let it all out.
it's going. You have the floor.
Okay.
I'll stop you. I have a gavel.
All right. Is there a compromise to that? In other words, I'm for glass walls at City Hall. And is there a compromise that you could reduce this a little bit for $800 a month or something, but yet make it more of an advertisement type ad that maybe isn't $1,700, is it $1,200? Some sort of compromise to where it is now. This city spends a lot of money on a lot less important things. And having glass walls in our government, I can't think of many things that would be as important as that.
I'm sure they have other size options. I just asked, because I know Counselor Beal kind of mentioned having the regular size or half-page ad, or, so that's kind of what I asked for, but can they make it less than half a page, but not legal, I'm sure.
Councilor Beal.
Yeah, it wasn't that I wanted it, like, the whole thing. It was just take it out of the public notices, because it's about, that whole thing is about that big. And nobody, I mean, really, who looks at public notices, seriously? But, although they should. But,
And some people really super.
really, probably they do, I'm sorry. But to put it in the front where people could actually see there's an agenda and then read it, you know. And probably not that little tiny thing that we have now, but not two of these either.
If you look at the Ellsworth American, and Ann can chime in if I get this wrong. Before public notices, you'll often, like, I call them block ads, they're smaller, but the text is larger than the legal notices. I mean, I don't know if they can do something, often you see like Bar Harbor Bank will put it in there for, you know, a job advertisement, and it's
Yeah.
pamphlet size, you know, it's not.
So, we used to at one time, actually, once a month, put a article about what was going on in the city in the paper, in the regular section of the paper. I mean, maybe we could do something similar to that with the agenda, and it wasn't, I actually think that ended up being free because it was informational, it was kind of like a guest thing. But I'm sure if we worked with the Ellsworth American, if we just once a month want a section on page 3 or 4, you know, that just puts it out there so people will see that there's an agenda and not have to, you know, go all the way to the back, past the classifieds and into, you know, the public notices to be able to find it. It will just remind people, it'll be there while they're looking through it or scanning. I read mine online, but it'll be there in front of them and they can say, oh, there's a council meeting and this is what's on it. You know, kind of mistakenly find it, you know.
I can
easily.
reach out to Brittany again and see if she has any other suggestions, or I
Yeah.
don't know how far long ago we used to do that. She might want to pull up our account, but
Yeah.
So when I placed this on the agenda, it came out of a discussion where some citizens were concerned, upset that they weren't aware of an issue. And I said at the time, well, let's talk about it. Let's figure out a way to provide information. I think there is a balance in terms of spending money to do more of the same isn't necessarily going to generate the awareness. And I don't have the answers. I'm not sure placing an ad, whether it's a small box or a bigger box, especially if it's just the agenda, really gets at the concern about communication. So I think it's more than just placing an ad in a different part of the paper. It's really a discussion about how do we ensure that we create the awareness of where do you go to get information, and are we being visible with it. So if we have issues, that it's on the website, or it can be accessed by calling City Hall and having something mailed, and that people start to know about that, and we create a culture where that's available, because ultimately it's a shared responsibility. I mean, we can post all kinds of things. If people aren't looking at it or taking interest, then they're not going to take interest. But if they want to take interest, then they should have an easy way to access it. And I think it's a multifaceted issue, and solution lies in looking at just things beyond just posting in the paper. So I just would encourage not just the council, but staff to think about how we might create that culture for information to be more accessible, especially when they're larger issues. You know, routine things people might not be that concerned about, but the larger issues we want to make sure are available. Councilor Lyons and then Councilor Howard.
When much travels throughout the whole state, everybody has these big neon bulletin boards. A lot of towns, you just drive straight through town and there's one street, so of course you see it by driving by the town office or whatever. But so I was thinking maybe looking into one of those type of things to either have outside here, or another place I thought was maybe like S.K. Whiting Park or something, where people would see it driving by. And it does it. I just, you're driving and all of a sudden, whoa, you know, everybody else is, I happen to notice, Newburgh last week, they, town meeting was on there and planning board meetings and stuff.
I like the SK Whiting idea with an electronic signboard. I don't know the cost of that, but if it's $1,700 a month, I would guess that he would have to,
I mean, I
I don't know,
think,
what is it, 10 or 12 grand to put one of those in, but at least it would be a one-time thing and probably some maintenance to it. What about a couple of other things? What about partnering with the school department and using theirs for a few days before the council meeting? Jean's idea is great. The school has a nice board there that maybe we could partner with them to advertise a planning board meeting or a council meeting. The other question I would have is, what about a generic ad that runs in the Ellsworth American that may be more cost-effective, that just simply says, city council meeting a certain date, planning board meeting a certain date, that doesn't have all the agenda items, but announces, when it is. Something to get your information to the people.
Counselor?
I think those are all good ideas, and I agree with what you're saying, which is getting the agenda and the meetings out there is one thing, but then also communicating about important issues and thinking about it in terms of comprehensive plan, for example, which we're thinking about now and really wanting a lot of input. So we really want people to know how to become involved in that. I think your agenda item said possible establishment of a subcommittee, and it seems like kind of a big enough thing that maybe that's worthwhile. So I'd be willing and happy to be part of a subcommittee to discuss all of it.
Counselor Stein?
Just to remind us all, last meeting we spoke about a possible survey of looking into this further, as sort of a study, a feasibility study of not just what can we do, but will it be effective? I just, it is our responsibility as a council to inform the public and have the public, feel that they are able to comment and have some say in what happens in their town. But that's not necessarily our forte, but there are organizations that are good at it. So whether it's the Maine Municipal Association, maybe they have existing studies that show the best ways that this is done by municipalities. If we're sticking more local, maybe Healthy Acadia, Main Street America, Main Street Maine. These are organizations that deal with cities and their interactions with citizens and organizations in their town, and they probably have some good information about this. If not, if we need to reinvent the wheel, I bet we could task some nonprofit or some subcommittee with taking a study. Where do you get your information? Because if it's not the Ellsworth American on the last posting page, then it's not our fault. We just haven't been reaching people because that's not where they're going to read their news. But I think we need to look into where people are going before we try a bunch of different things. And maybe a subcommittee is the best way to get into that.
Does anybody want to participate in a subcommittee? No? Anyone else?
Subcommittee.
So, Counselor Stein, O'Halloran, and Hanson for a subcommittee, ad hoc.
With presumably someone from the city, I would think, right? I don't know who you think would be the best person for that.
Well, I can talk to staff and figure out who to assign to it.
And I imagine we would come back to the council with a general plan and yearly budget for what that would look like. Dream team.
Sounds good. All right. Anything else for that?
Do we have to make a motion to do that? Or can we just say we're gonna do that?
I mean, we can appoint ad hoc committees, so I don't think we have to formally. Councilman?
I think when there was a couple
couple years ago, we did a survey and sent it out to the public to try to get them. So we do have some of that information from the communication committee that the city already had.
Yeah.
So, but you can add to that. There's a ton of information that was the communication committee compiled. Is that still going on, the communication committee? Yeah.
No, but we have, obviously, we have access to all of that, so
Yep.
we can reproduce that study and what that showed.
Great.
And we did a Survey Monkey, I think. So, and I can't remember how many people
There was
participated.
quite a few.
Yeah.
I'd just like to add one more comment that, you know, everybody that owns property here is delivering money to City Hall. And I believe having glass walls at City Hall is more important than any of it. That people can see what's going on with the dollars they delivered to entrust the city spending it wisely.
All right, so the committee will be ready by January 9th, whatever.
Ish.
Maybe February. All right. Consent agenda, all items with an asterisk are considered to be routine, will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion on these items unless the council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Item 10, Council Order Number 121900, discussion and action on the request of the Branch Lake Water Steward to set the Branch Lake boat and airplane sticker fee at $0 for the calendar year 2023.
It's the same as it always is. Mr. Whedon is here if you have additional questions.
You looking for a motion? Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, no questions. All right, new business, public hearing and action on the following applications for new and/or renewal on the following licenses. Madam Clerk, everything all set? And do we have any new ones, or are these all?
The last two are new owners,
And
so they'll need, and I believe you're here for one of the lodging.
Yeah, Comfort Inn.
Comfort Inn. And then you here for- Yes.
Okay,
they're
so
both-
we're all, good, okay. So Dave's Auto Repair and Towing, 231 Bucksport Road, Ellsworth, Maine, for renewal of a city towing recovery license. This is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. If anybody would like to speak on this, they may do so. If not, anybody from the council? Seeing no, we'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move to approve?
Have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? 86 this, 125 Main Street, Ellsworth, Maine, for renewal of a city Class B licensed food, alcohol, and amusement. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Anybody who would like to speak can do so now. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Squid LLC, DBA Ellsworth Suites, 147 Bucksport Road, Ellsworth, Maine, for a new city lodging license. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. Anybody that wishes to comment may do so now. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. And New England Hospitality, DBA Comfort Inn, 130 High Street, Ellsworth, Maine, for a new city lodging license. This is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. If anybody would like to speak, they may do so at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Move to approve?
Second?
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 12, public hearing and action to adopt the new amended 2022 version of the Ellsworth Code of Ordinances, Chapter 36, General Assistance Ordinance from the State of Maine.
Good evening. I'm standing in for Tina tonight. The only changes made to the state ordinance were in sections 2.2, and the changing that they made there is they had previously been using the terms he, she, her, him, and it now says persons, applicant, or they, them, to be more neutral in terminology.
So this is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. Public hearing is open. If anybody would like to speak on this matter, they may. I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed.
Motion to adopt the new amended 2022 version of Ellsworth Code of Ordinances.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 13, confirmation of administrative employee city planner.
Yes, good evening. So tonight, I'm asking for the council's confirmation for the city planner. You all know Matthew. He came to us back in July as our assistant planner, and I've been very impressed with his work ethic and his willingness to collaborate with other folks here at City Hall and the contractors and citizens alike who come in with projects. Matthew is very personable. He gets along well with the other employees in the city. He has a tremendous amount of ability, and he has a great relationship with the planning board, and he's been impressive on several different items where he's taken up the reins and worked on projects and just really done a fantastic job. Many of you probably remember the resiliency project that he worked on, and that was one of the first things that he took upon himself and did a fantastic job. Is very competent at running meetings and engaging with citizens and other city employees alike. Have a tremendous amount of confidence and very appreciative that he's interested in expanding his role into the city planner, and I think that he's an outstanding compliment to the city.
Thanks, Glenn.
Now that you've set the bar and the expectations way up here, you could have let off a little bit, right?
A little
Give you
bit,
bit.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did you want to say anything?
No, I didn't even have to come up here.
Okay. Councilors. Any comments, discussion, motions?
Move approval of the confirmation of Matthew, I'm sorry.
Williams.
I'm sorry?
Williams.
Williams, I'm sorry about that, as the new city planner.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I'm still fairly new to the council, but in my, the last few years, I've noticed a few resignations. I think the last two planners, and I don't know how common that is in municipalities like ours. Was it discussed for the new position? Was there a change at all? Was that not a consideration of any change in, say, the new MOU of the position? Was it something that was considered in this promotion of Matt to?
Well, so I mean, we can't really get into personnel matters. The previous planner I did not hire, and she did resign, 2 planners ago. We've had turnover in the planning department. We had a planner who unfortunately passed away. Prior to that, we had a longtime planner who left, and when her assistant became the planner, then she hired her assistant down where she went to, and then again, an individual was hired who I had no involvement with, who ended up resigning shortly after I became the city manager, and then of course the most recent resignation. I think it's a combination of things. It's a sign of the times. I mean, if you look around, everyone's having issues with staffing and folks are leaving to pursue other opportunities. And with this particular instance with Matthew, I'm confident that he's familiar with the system. He's familiar with the the employees and the expectations. So I wouldn't expect any issues there with him resigning unless he were presented with an opportunity that's something that he can't pass up. So I don't think the recent resignations have anything to do with the position or the expectation. I think it was the individual.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 14, appointment of administrative officials, treasurer/finance director.
So, the next appointment, I'm very pleased to be able to bring this appointment forward for you tonight. As you know, we've been many months, far too many months, without a finance director. We've done an exhaustive search, which has consisted of many different advertisements, used many different platforms to try and find someone. We've interviewed several applicants, and for a whole host of reasons, just hadn't found the right person. So tonight, I bring forward to you an applicant, Ann Layton, and she comes to us. Lane, I'm sorry. Ann Lane. She comes to us with a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration and a lengthy, which I won't go into all of it, but a lengthy history, working history in the world of finance, and very diverse history in the world of finance. We've had a couple of different interviews. She's interviewed with the staff, the current staff in the finance department, and I think that she has a lot of energy. She's a self-professed workaholic, so which is exactly what we need in that position. And so I look forward to working with her. And I think one thing that kind of tipped the scales for me when we were interviewing her, I think it was the first time we interviewed her, and she's one of the things she said to me was one of the first things she's going to do if she were offered this job is she's going to reach out to MMA and others and find out who in the state is the best at what they do in the finance department, in the finance world, for municipalities. And she was going to seek that person out and take that person to lunch and try to learn as much as she could from that person. So I think her willingness to and interest in learning and her willingness to seek out those who know the job and to be able to extend that information and that knowledge to her so that she can better serve the city of Ellsworth and the citizens here, I think is what really drove me to decide that I think she's the person for this job. So I'm pleased to introduce you to Ann, and I'm sure she'd be willing to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Any questions?
First, welcome.
Yes.
Councilor Heller.
First of all, we're glad to see you. Very glad to see you. Secondly, I just wanted to make sure that you've read the audit and you know what you're getting into.
I've been here a day, but I know, I have a pretty good idea.
Okay,
I heard about
because
it.
there's a lot of things that need to be tweaked and worked in
Yeah.
journal entries, et cetera. And I had asked that we have an accountant come in from the audit and level the books before you arrived.
Right.
But that didn't gain any traction. So unfortunately, you're inheriting some challenges there that I would have liked to have seen straightened out before you got here. But again, I couldn't get any traction. But as long as you know, we're glad to see you.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm coming to this from corporate finance, from private equity and security. I started my career in securities with Payne Weber, and then got lucky and got into doing Reg D offers and being in private equity before it was cool, before anybody else could invest in it, basically. So I have a long career in finance and accounting and operations and So I feel good about it. I know you have some challenges and a lot of turnover, so.
And I think it's important, especially for the public who's watching and listening, that the issues are really, we have the city being as diverse as it is, and municipal government being as diverse. There are a lot of chart of accounts. So there's a lot of different places where the dollars flow, where the accounting goes, and that's really what the auditors, we have had the preliminary, it's reconciling that. It's reconciling, making sure that the right amount get into the right accounts, and cleaning that up. And a lot of that was due to the fact that we, as a city, have had some change in personnel, and when that happens, that becomes problematic. The system that we are in the process of replacing has been problematic as well in terms of recording it. So hopefully with the new platform that's being installed, it's going to make your job a lot easier. And I think the audit that just was completed, it was much more detailed than it had been in the past couple of years. So I think that's going to be helpful as well.
Great.
The audit's still going to be completed, right, in January or February? So they are working on the audit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No,
So you'll have your journal entries when that happens?
And actually, we've contracted with HR to create a new chart of accounts. So there's a lot, I mean, there is a lot of work being done behind the scenes to address many of the concerns and issues that have been identified. So, and we'll just continue with that work and hopefully add a whole nother layer of effort to it.
And Mr. O'Halloran, I heard you talking about transparent walls. I came up in corporate finance, we were subject to Sarbanes-Oxley level of transparency, so it's a lot stricter than anything. I can't think of anything. You know,
It's not just the
you're
department.
You're
It's-
putting officers on the line personally, financially, for your financial reports. So that's the level I've had to work to in the past.
It's not just that department, I'm about glass walls with all departments, so. If I may,
Councilor.
maybe I could do it after the motion.
Okay. Just need a motion from anyone.
Move approval of the council appointment of the new finance director.
We have a motion.
Second?
And a second. Discussion. Councilor O'Halloran. Did you want to do it now or after?
After, if I could.
Oh, after the vote. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yes. I'd just like to thank Tony for stepping up to do all that she has done during this time. I mean, she's taken on many different roles, and this was one of those roles that she stepped into and said, I haven't done this before, but I'll learn it and I'll do it, and I just would like to give you a round of applause.
I hear Public Works needs. Firefighting?
Bye now, take care.
I'm done.
All right. Be that way. All right. Item 15, discussion and update on the city solar ordinance sponsored by Councilor Hanson.
Do you want to just
Do you
give
want
the
to get into
update?
it? So the planning board didn't recommend the amendments at our December meeting, so they'll be coming back for their January meeting, where I've been assured they'll be recommended. So the mailing for the public will go out at the latest December 27th, giving the 13-day public notice requirement for the city mailing, and then it'll come before you at your January 9th meeting.
Yeah, so we'll get, whatever those recommendations are, will come in the packet.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
What is the status? We're beyond the limits right now.
Yeah, our moratorium expired in October.
It's already expired, yeah.
So there's no moratorium.
No. Just the
So this is just, now it's
previously-
changes that are being proposed.
Right, so the previously existing solar ordinance is what's in place now, and these are just amendments to that ordinance.
Okay.
for the next thing too, so.
Just stay.
And I may have missed it, but did you explain the mailing issue?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'll move to the next item. Item 16, request of the city planner to review the RFP for the comprehensive plan and select 2 members of the council to be on the steering committee.
Yep, so I guess we'll start with the RFP first, those two. And in your packets, there's a more updated, I'd emailed a earlier draft to the council, and then included in the packet a more updated version after I received feedback from the planning board and other people in the planning community in Maine. So if you've had a chance to go through it, I mean, Councilor Stein, you emailed some suggestions previously. So in section 10A5, in scope, deliverables, and implementation, I included samples, just like e.g. of what we'd like to see in terms of grant funding, and what's required in the RFP is that they will lay out steps for the city to acquire those types of funds to achieve implementation. If they don't, there's a problem. So that should be included in their proposal back to us once they get the RFP. And then the next one was in section 13, you include a list of allusions or some specific feasibility studies and surveys taken over the past few years. That is included in the inventory phase of this comprehensive plan, where myself, the consultant, and community partners, Cara has a plan she showed you tonight that should be included or informed in the comprehensive plan. We collect all those together so that the consultant can see the data, put it all together, and then we can move on to the next step of the comprehensive plan from there. And then, do you have a sense of how likely it is that a qualified consultant will take on this project by the due date? Does the city have a budget plan for advertising the RFP to ensure a wide applicant pool? So I did change the due dates actually in this version of the RFP, so there is more time for people to apply, and that was one comment I had received on the previous version that you saw. So now I believe it's like 2 months for them to apply, and that should be enough time for all qualified consultants to take a look. And I wouldn't say there's a budget specifically for advertising the RFP, but I do have advertising money that we will use to, I mean, the city has its normal process for advertising the RFP, but we can look at other ways to get it out there. The main consultant, like planning community, is pretty known, but there are ways to advertise it further to out-of-state sources as well. And then, did I hit them all?
That's all I had, yeah. Thanks.
And if you want to turn to page, I guess it kind of ties into the timeline issue that Councilor Hanson had brought up. It's pages 4 and 5 of the RFP, kind of provides you with more detailed dates for the next upcoming portions of the comprehensive plan. Pretty much what's in our control at the moment. When we get proposals from consultants, they'll provide a fuller schedule in their mind of what they think they can achieve in a certain timetable within the 24 months that they're allowed after the comprehensive planning process begins. But those 2 pages contain the next steps.
In terms of previous councils have appropriated funding, I think on 2 occasions for the RFP.
Yeah.
Do we have that amount? And I think we have to encumber it specifically for that purpose since it's rolled over. So could we put that on the January agenda with the amount that from those 2 previous councils where it's rolled over so that we can make sure that that gets...
Right, I believe it's $100,000.
Right, but a large portion of that is in FY '23. In FY '22, I think there was only $35,000 that was budgeted for the comp plan.
So whatever.
So that will need to be encumbered.
Yeah, so whatever it is, just so we have that and...
But the FY '23 funds won't have to be encumbered until...
I couldn't remember when that was. Thank you. Counselor Howell.
Wasn't there a designation from TIF funding to go towards this plan?
Yes, that was the 35,000.
That was the third.
Yeah.
I guess the question I had for council to get your feedback on, we had heard earlier that an RFP with a specific amount didn't receive any answers because of the budget. And I've received feedback from other cities that are going through their comprehensive plan process that the 100,000 might not be enough. I did not know if there was a suggestion to put the RFP out without the budget and just see what we get, and then either tailor our scope accordingly, or to leave it in there since it's what we have set aside and just see what we get back first before trying again if we have to.
My preference would be to put it out without any amounts, because if you put it out with an amount and it's not high enough, then we're just gonna delay the project. Let's see what we get back, and then we can massage it from there.
Sounds good.
That's my thought, but,
I agree.
All right. Cool.
good.
Thank you.
All right, item 17, council order number 12.
Is it the second part that he's gonna choose counselors?
Oh, yes, thank you. See, he left and then get all confused. We'll blame the new planner. So, is there an interest from councilors to be a member of that
I'm interested.
steering committee?
I'm interested. I mean, I think Matt was maybe gonna tell us what that would entail so we could figure out, my only question is, does it fit into my work life in
Yeah,
terms of?
it is a bit of a time constraint, so it doesn't sound like a lot because it's really just gonna be like one meeting a month initially, but they're pretty lengthy and in-depth meetings. It's a lot of preparation that you need to do before each of those meetings. The steering committee essentially is the final editors, I guess, with the consultant on the plan before it goes to the planning committee and then to the council again when it's done. So it's the last eyes really for like the chapters that are written. So it's a big responsibility, but you know.
You already volunteered.
Because he made it sound like so much fun.
But when are you thinking, like, sort of specifically, what time will the meetings happen? Or do you haven't
I mean, I
figured
can't
that
decide
out?
that myself. Yeah, it's like
Saturdays at
consultant
9?
and everybody. Yeah.
I suspect there'd probably be evening meetings. 'cause
probably
the
be
planning
evening
board
meetings.
members on it and, citizens.
So after work hours, yeah, it's
So-
most likely.
I'm still interested. Nervous, but interested.
Yeah.
Anyone else interested?
Put me in, coach.
We have two. Is anybody else? Makes it easier if you keep your hands down, but. All right, I think we have our two counselors. Counselor Hanson and Counselor Stein.
Thank you all.
Do we need to vote on that? What's the?
Anything else on that item? Item 17, council order number 121901, request of the wastewater superintendent to replace the boiler at the wastewater treatment facility.
Good evening, councilors. Mike Harris, Ellsworth wastewater superintendent. So I'm here before you tonight because we have had ongoing issues with our HVAC system at the plant. The plant is primarily heated and cooled by heat pumps, and that particular system is failing. And so we have two boilers as backup that also provide domestic heat for us and domestic hot water. And so last year we budgeted to try and replace the whole shooting match. And I've had multiple companies in. We were working with Thayer for a while. They said they were going to be able to do something for us. That never materialized. Johnson Controls said that they would be able to do something for us. I mean, both these companies came, took pictures. We sent them all of our drawings on the system, the whole 9 yards. They dropped off the map. And so as far as the heat pumps go, I still do not have a solid plan for them yet, because I haven't found a vendor to work with that's going to give me a solid plan for them. So my second option was to at least get the boilers replaced, because we are only on one boiler out of the two that's functioning right now. The boiler that we're on right now is obsolete, so if it fails, we're done for. The heat pumps, we have 1.5 out of 4 working. That's not sustainable. That's not going to be able to sustain the heat requirements for the plant. And so I had 4 vendors come to look at the boiler setup to give us pricing. We received 2 bids. Osborne's never came. R.H. Foster came, but then never responded to requests for the price that they were going to give us. And I didn't want to keep dragging it out because we're already in cold weather. And so the 2 quotes you have in front of you, the ones that we received, the low quote is from ABM Mechanical, in the amount of $28,000. I mean, even if it's approved, Victor from ABM said it would be probably a month before they'd have the boilers and then could put them in. But that's the best we can do right now. And then one little ray of light was when ABM came to look at the boiler setup, he actually brought a representative from FW Webb with him. And the FW Webb representative said that they do now have a division that works on the heat pumps, you know, the big industrial heat pumps. So he would like to follow up with me after we get through finding out what we're going to do with the boilers. So here, tonight I'm here for the boilers, with the hope that the gentleman from FW Webb is telling me the truth, and then I can further try and get more information on replacing our heat pump system. That's where we're at right now.
Councilors. Councilor Hub.
Can I get a little history lesson?
Sure.
What year was the plant built?
2012. But it went online in 2012.
Right, okay. So it strikes me funny that you have 2 heating systems that are giving you trouble in a 10-year period.
Mm-hmm.
And when that decision was made, did we buy the least expensive? I mean, heating systems, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have several that are 30 years old and still going.
Yeah.
So what's the root cause of all these heating failures within 10 years?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you the history, and it's a little bit long, but you'll get the full picture. The heat pumps were originally bid, and the company that bid on them came at the very end when it was time to put them in and refused to install what they bid on. So then the city and the engineers were forced to look for a different vendor to put in our heat pump system, which they did.
And that's primary, correct? That's supposed to be the primary?
That's the primary heating and cooling.
Yeah.
Boilers are supposed to be the backup. So heat pumps were put in, didn't function properly for the first 2 years. We had the engineers back, we had the contractors, everybody. We finally figured out what the issue was. We got them working, but the issue was the supply pumps that supply water to the heat pumps was 1 horsepower. It should have been a 5 horsepower. And so when we got the 5 horsepower pumps installed, though that heat pump system has its own computer system. And the company that installed the computer system and programmed everything was Basics Automation. Basics Automation, after we requested a change order to put the 5 horsepower pumps in, said, okay, we want $11,000 more to reprogram. The city and the engineer's response was, well, you haven't finished programming the first contract, so when you finish that, then we'll look at doing the change order to give you additional monies. Basics refused. So Basics walked away from the project. So at that point, we had heat pumps installed. We didn't know how to run them. we were supposed to get training from basics once they got it all programmed. We didn't. So they were functioning, but not properly. So then we found a gentleman who was like a one-man show, but he knew the programming logic that was used to program. He came in. He got them working pretty much the way they were supposed to, and things were great. Heat pumps were working, they were cooling in the summer, heating in the winter, but we still had no idea really how to maintain them. So we started having some issues with them a few years ago. He decided to go work for another company, could not come back and help us with that. So lo and behold, eventually Basics reached out to us and asked if they could come help us. So Basics came and they helped us, and we got to a point where it turned out that all the heat pumps, 4 of the heat pumps have 2 compressors each in them. That's what drives the whole thing. So we had a compressor fail, then we had another compressor fail. Basics doesn't do the mechanical side. So then we had Thayer come in, who does mechanical, and they do mechanical work for the rest of the city, for boilers and stuff like that. They come in, they clean them, flush them. They tell us that they're almost at the end of their useful life, that we should replace them. And part of the reason for that is because when the system was installed, it was installed so that we would use our own effluent as the supply water, instead of using a chemical like glycol or just city water. At the time, it was thought to be really green, efficient. Everybody thought it was the latest, greatest. Not the case. And so over time, even though our effluent's really clear, that took a toll on the coils inside the compressors and stuff, and that's why they were failing. So then that was what prompted me to start the journey into saying, okay, we're going to have to replace this system. So what I was actually hoping to do was, when I had Thayer involved, and then I had Johnson Controls involved, and ABM actually also came out before to look at the heat pumps, was to say, okay, what if we just got rid of using our effluent, and we put in a single loop glycol system, which has a lot more longer life that you're talking about. So that's what I would like to go to. But I haven't been able to find a company willing to step up to the plate and look at replacing that whole heat pump system, because it's pretty complex. Not to mention the programming that would go along with it. So that's been the battle for the last couple of years now, is trying to get these companies that come and say that they're going to be able to help us follow through and actually help us. And so that's been unsuccessful largely because almost all of the heat pump people that you talk to in this state deal with the residential stuff. They don't deal with heat pumps the size of the heat pumps that we have. And the company that sold us the heat pumps is completely non-responsive. We've called them multiple times and we get voicemails. We called the company, which is Ferguson, that distributed for them, that supplied us. Ferguson reached out to them. They were unsuccessful. So our ability to get help from the people that provided them to us has been non-existent. And so it culminates now in where we're at today, which is we have a heat pump system that needs to be replaced. We budgeted to have it replaced, but we're not having any luck finding somebody to help us with that. And so what happened was we had the boilers cleaned last year, the year before, but we had started to have, they were getting used more because the heat pumps weren't working. So when the heat pumps are working, our propane usage is somewhere in the range of like a 60% reduction in propane. I mean, it's huge. But when when the heat pumps started malfunctioning, not working, the boilers took on the load more. So the last time we had it cleaned, which was also by ABM, they were cleaning one of them and there was a hole in the chamber. Or they made, I don't know if they made the hole or all they said was there's a hole in the chamber and it's no longer functional. These things are obsolete, cannot be repaired. I'm like, don't touch the other one. Just leave it alone. And so that's what we're running on. But it's pretty critical because even now, like we're running space heaters in our building. Our temperature in my office was 62 degrees before we put the heat pumps on, when it gets really cold. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a critical situation. And, you know, I wanted to get as many, I tried to get Coastal Energy. They said they don't do the commercial boilers anymore. Osborne's, like I said, didn't show up. I mean, there's probably 100 other heating and cooling companies out there that, you know, I could probably try and get a price from, even not local maybe, but everybody's so booked up, they don't even want to start a new job yet. So.
Councilor O'Hara.
That brings me to where we are tonight with two proposals, one for 28,000 and one for 53,000. So I guess my question is, and maybe you can't answer that, is, you know, are we buying, it looks like they quoted different systems, you know, and the $28,000 one, is that a 10-year product like you bought originally? And is the $52,000 one a 30-year product?
I don't think that's the case. I'm not the expert on it, so
No,
I'm just giving you my sense. I looked through those bids. The biggest difference I saw was the 52,000 is bidding two 300,000 BTU boilers, Buderus, which are good boilers, and ABM is quoting 285,000 BTU boilers, but 15,000 BTUs does not equate to almost double the price, and I can't see anything in there. Because my worry was that, well, maybe ABM missed something. Maybe ABM didn't quote something they were supposed to quote. But when I looked at both quotes, and I read both, it seems like they're doing the same job. They're both tearing out their old boilers, they're both putting in two new boilers, they're both redoing the piping to make them, you know, fit correctly, testing them, the whole 9 yards. So I honestly don't understand why that bid difference is what it is.
Looks
but
like they're two different,
they're two different brands of boilers. Yes, they are.
And you just mentioned that, is it Buderus? Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Is a good boiler. Is
Yeah.
this other one, do you know anything about this HTP?
I do not know. It's not my area of expertise, so I would love to be able to give you a.
Bottom line question is, you know, 28,000 seems great, but I don't want to jump into the same plan that you're already in with failing systems.
Yeah, and so, I'm not sure, I can't give you a definitive answer on why the boilers went bad early. I can give you definitive answers on why the heat pumps went bad early. But I can't give you a definitive reason why the boilers went bad early. And, you know, that's the best I can do with that. I wish I could give you some more information on that, but like I said, it's not my area of expertise, so.
Looks like the electrical is the only thing that, other than the boilers, that looks different in two quotes. One is the complete wiring for the system functionality, and the other is not included. I don't have a sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, ABM was there with the FW Web. I wasn't there when Mr. Ray came and visited the plant, so I don't know what his take on the system was. I'm not sure why they would look at a complete rewire because everything's there. It's according to the ABM and FW Web, it's a plug-and-play situation. The only difference is with our current boiler setup, they're vertical. There's a boiler and then there's a boiler stacked on top of it. Both of these boiler setups are horizontal boilers, which is what drives, you know, redoing the piping and whatnot. And so, I don't know, maybe he quoted worst case scenario or something, I don't know. But, I mean, we got his quote late. So I put it in there because I didn't want to leave him out. But that's all I can tell you.
And you mentioned there was a chance that you recently got in contact with a heat pump specialist that might be able to come through?
Yeah, so when ABM Mechanical came and looked at our boiler system, like I said, he bought a representative with him from FW Webb, which is huge, a huge plumbing and heating company. And when they came to look at the boilers, I showed him the heat pumps, and I said, this is what's going on with those. And he said, you know, we have a division now that deals with those. He's like, because everybody's wanting to go to heat pumps now. They're the up and coming technology that everybody wants to heat and cool their stuff with. And so I told him, I was like, well, listen, you know, we're here for the boilers, but I will be in contact with you to have somebody come down and look at the heat pump system, because we do want to get the heat pump system done. It's just, right now, winter's already here, and that's gonna be a big project. I mean, we budgeted 150,000. So 28,000 goes to the boilers, that leaves 132,000 to do something with our heat pumps, hopefully. So. And I think they repay themselves fairly quickly. I mean, I wanna say, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I mean, you know, we went from like $3,000 propane bills down to like $600 propane bills, I think, maybe when the heat pumps are working. Something to that effect. It was significant.
But your electric goes up.
Yeah. I'd have to look at, you know, that piece of it. I mean, yeah, because they're running compressors, so.
It's likely that the reason why the boilers started failing is because the heat pumps, when they designed it to work in conjunction with the heat pumps.
Yes.
They work 55% harder than they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So you're wearing one thing out, and
Yeah.
and the new heat pumps that they come up with now are 3 times more efficient than the ones they came out with in 2012.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So.
Motion to approve the proposal from ABM Mechanical in the amount of $28,042 to be funded from the capital improvement account to replace the boiler.
Second.
A motion, a second discussion.
Actually, the warranties on those.
It's in here. I don't have my glasses, honestly, so I cannot read right now.
I
left them in my truck.
Companies are reputable, so.
Oh, yeah.
Very
I mean,
reputable.
you know, Ray's been in business for years and years and years and years, and
Yeah,
ABM
ABMs.
is, yeah. So, I mean, they're well-known companies.
Yeah.
Could you just go through the history again?
Because we can't have an executive session.
Yeah, just dragging on the meeting. Further discussion. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Item 18, discussion and date selection for a workshop with Heart of Ellsworth and Maine Downtown Center staff. I sponsored this item. Do you want to go up for 2 minutes and? 2 or 3, yeah.
I'm here this evening to see if we can work with council to organize a workshop with staff from the Maine Downtown Center and Heart of Ellsworth Board and City Council, so we can work together to kind of figure out next steps of how our organization and the city work together to capitalize on opportunities that come our way, come the city's way. And understand a little bit more about the Maine Downtown Center and the structure and the National Main Street movement that the Heart of Ellsworth and the City of Ellsworth are a part of. Just one piece of clarifying information, I'm not sure if everyone on the council and city staff understands that the Heart of Ellsworth may have worked together with the community back in 2020 to have the city become an affiliate community of the main downtown center and National Main Street, but the designation actually sits with the city. And every year, Heart of Ellsworth pays the dues that is required to keep that association in good standing. We, this year, received appropriations, but the appropriations didn't cover that aspect of dues. So Heart of Ellsworth, the Board of Directors, and staff, we feel that we've seen so much progress over the course of the past 7 years that having this support network and all of the different benefits that have come our way and in turn the city's way has been very beneficial. This year we received quite a few dollars from outside the city, and over the course of the past 7 years, the organization has been able to raise a lot of money. And in the workshop, actual main downtown center staff would come and be on site to sort of talk about benefits and how other cities have gone through the process the part of the process we've already gone through, and how they've kind of met this juncture and kind of how they continue to move forward to grow. So we're hopeful that we are able to organize a workshop with council ahead of the main downtown center conference that will happen in Boston in March. We have some board members who are attending. We found out this evening, actually the board doesn't even know, but we found out this evening that we did have a donor that has given us a bit of money to help us go to that conference, and we're hopeful to in turn invite a city councilor or two or staff to attend the workshop in Boston with us that will take place on March 27th. But we're hopeful that we're able to have this time in this workshop session with council so that we're all sort of on the same page, and that city staff would attend as well.
Is that something, so that requires a motion for us to say, yes, we agree, we want to have a workshop to hear more about the main downtown center? Yeah. I would like to hear more about the main downtown center, so move to arrange that workshop. Motion to arrange that workshop.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion.
What are the main like actionable things that we hope to take away from that workshop? Are there boxes that we want to check as a city, or Heart of Ellsworth wants to check?
Yeah, I think at this point in time, it's sort of giving a sort of a base understanding of the organization itself, meaning when I say that, I'm talking about the main downtown center and National Main Street movement. And to sort of understand where Heart of Ellsworth is in its development, where the city would like to go with the organization that has been created, and sort of if the next step of Heart of Ellsworth becoming a Main Street community, or Ellsworth becoming a Main Street community, is something that council is interested in the downtown community sort of pursuing. And also to give an overall understanding of sort of other communities that are model communities in Maine that have gone through this process and have come out on the other side, becoming a full-blown Main Street community, and getting the council also to understand sort of things like the extra added points that are added to community development block grant applications. That's just one example. As the city moves forward with its comprehensive plan and they come out on the other side, I would imagine that the city would probably be putting in more applications for community development block grants. And so how many extra points do communities have that are, because that's part of the whole designation process, is that right now, as Ellsworth being an affiliate community, it's my understanding that you receive either 1 or 2 extra points on each community development block grant application you put in. If we were to become a Main Street community, then the city would have more base points that they could put onto their application. So that's just one benefit that I can think of, but other benefits have, of course, been grant dollars that Heart of Ellsworth has received. We received we received congressional earmark funding earlier this year that will be released next year. Had we not been an affiliate community, we would not have been able to be part of that. So that was it's about a $60,000 grant that we've brought in that will be executed next year through a community process. So there are all sorts of benefits, and just trying to sort of have the main downtown center paint a picture of those benefits, and also to give you examples of other communities. And we're hopeful to organize something in January or February. I guess I should say that as well.
All in favor of scheduling a workshop? Unanimous.
Thank you. What are the next steps?
We need to find a date.
Okay.
So
Okay, the reason why I ask, and maybe I don't know the process of this because we've never gone through this before, but with trying to organize the staff from the main downtown center, we have two people that are interested in coming and supporting our efforts in communicating with council. Is there a way that I put them in touch, because they're trying to plan their year as well and wanting that information? They've been asking me for the past couple of weeks, and I told them that I don't know how this works,
So, yeah, communicate with me.
Okay,
And then
perfect.
I will work with you, and then put potential dates out to the council, and we'll narrow it down.
Excellent. It'll be Abby Levin and Ann Ball from the main downtown center, which I think you've met Ann, so perfect. Thank you. That is very helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
councilor comments. Opportunity for councilors to comment on any item they wish. Councilor O'Halloran.
I don't want to be the first guy to jump here. Just something that I would like to bring to the council's attention and the city of Ellsworth's attention, all the taxpayers, everybody in this room, everybody on YouTube, is it's customary that we say the Pledge of the Allegiance to the flag before every meeting. And I think some of us were taught that in school, some of us wasn't. And I just wanted to take a minute to read that and maybe some meanings. When it says, I pledge of allegiance, allegiance meaning commitment, to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic, which means a governing system, for which it stands one nation, under God, indivisible, which means unable to divide, with liberty, which means no oppressive restrictions from authority. That's a big one. No oppressive restrictions from authority. And justice, which means fair treatment for all. This kind of lines up with the glass walls at City Hall. I would like to make sure that everyone has fair treatment and that we have glass walls at City Hall.
Anyone else? Well, I would just like to just wish everybody a great holiday season. We're at that point where that's coming upon us. But building on that, I would just echo the fact that we have a great community. We have a great city. We have dedicated staff who work in this city every day. And yes, as councils, we have great volunteers on our planning board. This council, other groups throughout that regularly try to make this city better. And I just hope as we go into the new year, I think this is always the time when you can reflect on that, that as a community, that's what we all try to achieve. It's to make this the best community we can have. And focus on the positive, and focus on building up the city rather than trying to tear it down, and rather trying to divide, rather than try to find all the faults. There are always going to be faults. There are always going to be ways that we can improve. But if we start with what works well, what builds a community, what makes us strong, that's what makes a better community. That's what makes it better. That's what every single person that lives here, works here, passes through here wants to see. And I think as a council, if we stay focused on those positive things, as a community that we stay focused, it doesn't mean we can't disagree. We should disagree. That's what makes us better. It's how we disagree, and it's how we move things forward. And I certainly hope for that for the next year and as we move forward. Anyone else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? We are adjourned.